Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. Empower Oversight is the organization that sued the SEC this past December because the SEC, until they were actually sued, was just stonewalling Empower Oversight, refusing, as they are legally required to do so, to participate in FOIA reveals. FOIA, of course, stands for Freedom of Information Act. And Power Oversight, they requested all sorts of information, and I've been reporting on this since this was breaking, because actually the story dates back to August, which is when Empower Oversight started going after, trying to get the Hinman-related emails having to do with the SEC v. Ripple case, and it wasn't until December that they're like, wow, we're really not getting anywhere, so they sued the SEC. Well, now, today, there's something brand new from Empower Oversight, and they're citing real-world interactions with the SEC as proof that the SEC is either incompetent or they're hiding info. Now, what's the answer to that? Well, perhaps it's a little of column A and a little bit of column B, but really probably a lot of column B. It's probably a lot of them intentionally hiding information with just a few sprinkles here and there, as the recipe calls for, incompetency. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to share with you the specifics here, but before we're going any further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a legal or financial background of any kind. I'm not offering legal or financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. Now, you will see as I go through this latest piece from Empower Oversights that the struggle in dealing with the SEC is real. Oh yes, it is indeed real. Talk about struggle bus, man. So here's the headline. Empower Oversight exposes SEC's bad faith FOIA tactics in crypto conflicts lawsuit filing. So if you want to learn a little bit more about just how bad it is to deal with these pricks over at the SEC, you done come to the right spot. This is the Moon Lambeau Hot Jam just for you. And again, this came out just a little bit earlier today. Empower Oversight's filed its opposition to the Securities and Exchange Commission's motion for summary judgment in the ongoing Freedom of Information Act lawsuit over documents related to conflicts of interest and selective enforcement in cryptocurrency cases. The filing demonstrates that the SEC intentionally misinterpreted the plain text of Empower Oversight's request, admittedly ignored statutory deadlines without cause, and solicited search terms to locate documents only to ignore those as well. So let's pause now. You will see as we go through this. This is strong proof here that the SEC is not operating in good faith. And yes, fine, I'll admit there's some incompetency here because, you know, in following the SEC v. Ripple case for almost 2 years at this point, they'll make arguments and then they'll, like, I think maybe some of this is intentional, they're seeing what they can get away with, but they'll make arguments, but then they'll argue the opposite point later on. I'm convinced that some of that's an accident. I am convinced some of that is incompetency. But I think a lot of it's arrogance, too, thinking that it won't get caught or they could just get away with it anyway because they're just terrible creatures that nature accidentally made. But, again, either way, it's bad. There's no excuse for this regardless, but check out how bad this gets. And so here we have now from Jason Foster, as the founder and president of Empower Oversight, the following statement that he publicly issued. This is Jason Foster, founder and president of Empower Oversight, speaking right now. It's abundantly clear that the SEC is doing everything within its power to hide information from the public about these issues. The key question is why? Despite its stubborn delays and resistance to our FOIA requests, the few documents that we managed to pry loose from the agency point to serious ethical concerns. Perhaps it is merely bureaucratic incompetence, but it is also possible that the SEC is acting like it has something to hide because it actually has something to hide. That's why FOIA exists, to hold government accountable through transparency. The law requires more than the SEC seems willing to provide. In May of this year, Empower Oversight sent a referral to the SEC Inspector General based on documents that raise questions about the failure of the SEC and its ethics office to properly manage SEC official William Hinman's conflicts of interest regarding cryptocurrency issues, contacts with his former law firm Simpson Thacher, and that firm's interest in promoting one cryptocurrency over others. So pause and note, of course, what they're getting, what Jason Foster's getting at right here is obviously that Billy Boy Hinman, William Hinman, he was warned by the ethics office that since he had an ongoing financial interest in his former law firm, Simpson Thacher, he could not email, he could not have phone calls with anyone over there. He couldn't do it. But on at least several occasions, which have now come public, it's clear he did anyway. He didn't give a damn. These people think that they are above the law. That's what it looks like to me anyway. What's it look like to you? So there's certainly that. The promoting of ETH, well, that's certainly something. So while he's getting the financial kickback, it's just a coincidence. He didn't know that his former law firm Simpson Thacher was a member of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance or anything along those lines. No. They didn't know there was any sort of financial interest there. He's just going to go ahead and happen to promote ETH. That's just a big coincidence here. It's completely absurd. And so when they're pointing out here, again, it reads as follows. In May of this year, Empower Oversight sent a referral to the SEC Inspector General based on documents that raised questions about the failure of the SEC and its ethics office to properly manage SEC official William Hinman's conflicts of interest. Exactly. And we have this stuff in writing. So the ethics office, I don't see any evidence that they knew about the Ethereum free pass speech. In fact, my suspicion is that they did not know, because had they known, I think they would have said something. I think they're separate enough from the rest of the bureaucracy at the SEC that they're not going to be afraid of Kim Jong-Ginsler at the top, or as was the case at the time, that asshat Jay Clayton running the SEC. They're separated. My understanding is they're separated enough that they wouldn't be afraid to say, no, this is why we're the SEC ethics office, is to let you know, but they just did not care. Anyway, Jason Foster continues. Since then, more emails have come to light not referenced in the referral, raising new questions about Hinman's contacts with partners at his former firm, including a contact with Simpson Thacher partner Chris Lin to, quote, report on what is going on in China, end quote, around the time a Chinese client had business before the SEC. So pause to think about that. More emails came to light that were not referenced in the referral. So why the delay? Why wasn't that just sent over in the first place? You can see it gives the impression, again, this is why they're asserting what they're asserting. It's either incompetency or they're intentionally hiding something. In this case, I lean toward, my suspicion is that they're intentionally hiding stuff, because based on what we're seeing from here, and I doubt that Empower Oversight's lying about this stuff, I don't think that anyone could possibly be quite this stupid. Like, to not know how to do a search within a database? Have you ever used the Googles? Come on, man. It's 2022. I ain't falling for this nonsense. This I don't think is purely incompetency. It's either entirely or almost entirely, my suspicion is anyway, bad faith. This is people trying to hide info. That's what it certainly looks like anyway. That's my suspicion. Jason Foster continues. From the outset, the SEC has resisted complying with its legal disclosure obligations. As Empower Oversight explained in its court filing this week, the SEC admittedly failed to provide a FOIA determination within the time required by law, without citing any reason it could not meet the deadline. The SEC began complying only after Empower Oversight filed its lawsuit. Yeah, so pause. The SEC, they don't want the truth to get out, so they will give you as hard a time as they possibly can and will only acquiesce even the smallest point if you take action against them. They want to see how bad you really want to get the information that you're requesting. And even then, they're going to do a terrible job of getting it to you intentionally. That's what it looks like anyway. Check this out. Jason Foster continues. Empower Oversight was harmed by the SEC's delays because it had to expend resources, including filing fees and attorney's fees, to enforce its statutory right to information. Empower Oversight is asking the court to declare that the SEC violated the statute and allow Empower Oversight to recover its costs under the law, which is designed, quote, to reward plaintiffs whose filing of lawsuits alters the government's slowness and brings about disclosure, end quote. Whew. So there you go. Hoping that the court sides with Empower Oversight, because it seems pretty egregious what's happened to this point, and Empower Oversight, which is a not-for-profit entity, could get a monetary reward as a result, which, based on all publicly available information, sounds pretty damn reasonable to this point. and with the intent being of, punishing this type of behavior that the SEC has been displaying here. But this is what they're doing. It's like obstruction of justice. It's what it looks like, certainly, right? It's repulsive behavior. So you all can let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'm just the messenger here. I'm not thrilled that this is what the SEC is doing, but is anybody surprised? I am not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the Moon Lambo.